Stephen King is renowned for creating the most graphic yet enthralling horror stories. And why we crave horror movies, he explains our deep attraction for the graphic, the terrible, and the violent. Maybe the reason why we love horror stories so much is that we're all a little insane and just looking for a way to express it. I think that we're all mentally ill. Those of us in asylums only hide it a little better, and maybe not that much better after all. We all know people who talk to themselves, people who sometimes scrunch their faces up into horrible grimaces when they believe no one's watching, people who have some hysterical fear of snakes, the dark, the tight place, the long drop, and of course, those final worms and grubs that are waiting so patiently underground. When we pay our $4 or $5 to sit 10th row center at a theater showing a horror movie, we are daring the nightmare. Why? Well, some reasons are simple and obvious to show that we can. That we're not afraid, we can ride this roller coaster. Which is not to say that a really good scary movie won't surprise a scream out of us at some points, the way we may scream when the roller coaster twists through a 360 or plows through a lake at the bottom of a drop. And horror movies, like roller coasters, have always been the special province of the young. By the time one turns 40 or 50, one's appetite for double twists and 360-degree loops may have significantly depleted. We also go to reestablish our feelings of essential normality. Horror movies are innately conservative, even reactionary. Frida Jackson as the horrible melting woman in Die Monster Die confirms for us that no matter how far removed we may be from the beauty of Robert Redford and Diana Ross, we are still light years away from true ugliness. And we go to have fun. But this is where the ground starts to slope away, isn't it? Because it is a very peculiar sort of fun indeed. The fun comes from watching people get menaced, sometimes killed. One critic suggests that if pro football is the voyeur's version of combat, then the horror film is the modern version of a public lynching. It is true that the mythic fairy tale horror film intends to take away the shades of gray. It urges us to put away our more civilized, adult penchant for analysis to become like children again, to see things in pure blacks and whites. It may be that the horror movie provides psychic relief on this level, because this invitation to lapse into simplicity, irrationality, and even outright madness is extended so rarely. We are told we may allow our emotions free rein or no rein at all. If we are all insane, then sanity becomes a matter of degree. If your insanity leads you to carve up women like Jack the Ripper or the Cleveland torso murderer, then we clap you away in the funny farm. But neither of these two amateur night surgeons was ever caught. If, on the other hand, your insanity leads you to talk to yourself when you're under stress or pick your nose on the morning bus, then you're left to go about your business, though it's doubtful you'll ever be invited to the best parties. The potential lyncher is inside almost all of us, excluding saints past and present. But then most saints have been crazy in their own ways, and every now and then he has to be let loose to roll around and run in the grass. Our emotions and our fears form their own body, and we recognize that it demands its own exercise to maintain proper muscle tone. Certain of these emotional muscles are accepted, even exalted in civilized society. They are, of course, the emotions that tend to maintain civilization itself. Love, friendship, loyalty, kindness, these are all the emotions that we applaud. Emotions that have been immortalized in the couplets of Hallmark cards and in the verses, I dare not call it poetry, of Leonard Nimoy. When we exhibit these emotions, society showers us with positive reinforcement. We learn this even before we're out of diapers. When, as children, we hug our rotten little puke of a sister and give her a kiss, all the aunts and uncles smile and twit and cry, "Isn't he the sweetest thing?" Such coveted treats as chocolate-covered graham crackers often follow. But if we deliberately slam our little puke of a sister's fingers in the door, sanctions follow. Angry remonstrance from parents, aunts, and uncles. Instead of a chocolate-covered graham cracker, a spanking. But anti-civilization emotions don't just go away, they demand periodic exercise. We have such sick jokes as, "What's the difference between a truckload of dead babies and a truckload of bowling balls?" You can't unload a truckload of bowling balls with a pitchfork. A joke, by the way, I originally heard from a 10-year-old. Such a joke may surprise a laugh or a grin out of us even as we recoil, a possibility that confirms the thesis. If we share a brotherhood of man, then we also share an insanity of man. None of which is intended as a defense of either the sick joke or insanity, but merely as an explanation of why the best horror films, like the best fairy tales, manage to be reactionary, anachronistic, and revolutionary all at the same time. The mythic horror movie, like the sick joke, has a dirty job to do. It deliberately appeals to all that is worst in us. It is morbidity unchained. Our most base instincts let free, our nastiest fantasies realized. And it all happens, fittingly enough, in the dark. For those reasons, good liberals often shy away from horror films. For myself, I like to see the most aggressive of them, Dawn of the Dead for instance, as lifting a trap door in the civilized forebrain and throwing a basket of raw meat to the hungry alligators swimming around in that subterranean river beneath. Why bother? Because it keeps them from getting out, man. It keeps them down there and me up here. It was Lennon and McCartney who said that all you need is love. I would agree with that. As long as you keep the gators fed.